Okay, I'd like to talk to you about kitchen knives. Now, kitchen knives are probably one of the most important things that you'll have in the kitchen. Probably equal to your pots and pans, greater than your accessories, and you're going to use them the most, even more so than pots and pans. Now, a lot of people underestimate the importance of kitchen knives. They'll just get whatever's on sale at Target or Walmart and use that. Not that those are bad options if that's what you can afford, but if you spend a significant amount of time in the kitchen, you're going to want to invest in a good set of kitchen knives. I'm not talking about breaking the bank of $1,000 or anything like that, but anywhere from $100 to $500, depending on what your budget is and what you plan to do with that, is more than acceptable. I'm going to start off with the most widely known kitchen knife. Okay, this is a chef's knife or cook's knife. You can see it's kind of triangular shape, and then it's got kind of a curve here, and this is so you can go back and forth, and I'm sure you may have seen me doing this in one of the videos. If not, you will. But this is an important knife. It's also, they have a smaller version that's a little bit smaller, about up to here, about 6 inches, 5 to 6 inches, which is called the utility knife, because the shape lends itself to do so many things. Now, talking a little bit about knives and the creation of them. Kitchen knives, good kitchen knives are made with a steel that has a high carbon content. That's important because a high carbon content, or any type of, the higher the carbon content, the harder the blade, and which means it's easier to sharpen. Now, I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it'll break off microscopically little chunks of the metal in order to have a sharp edge. In fact, a high carbon knife, which you see certain chefs use in professional restaurants, you can shave with them, and some of these as well. Now, what you'll find in the consumer version is a stainless steel knife with a higher carbon content. It's not a carbon knife. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Stainless steel, that it resists corrosion. It will rust, but it resists corrosion better than a carbon knife. I don't have a carbon knife. I'll throw a picture of it up there for you. But a high carbon knife, it looks like this, but it's very hard. It stays sharp for a long time, and it also starts to discolor because it'll pick up the moisture in the air. Never mind putting it underwater. And it'll impart the taste of metal to the foods too, especially acidic foods like onion or lemon or lime. What they do normally is after they're done washing it, they coat it with a little bit of mineral oil or vegetable oil, and even then it'll turn a kind of a brownish gray. So we tend not to use those. We use stainless steel knives. Any good knife you don't want to put in the washing machine. If you can put it in the washing machine and it doesn't rust, it's not a good knife for you. The reason being is because these are so delicate, because they can be sharpened, that the heat will over time dull the blade. Okay, it'll actually corrode away some of the tips of the blade. So more into that at some other time. But just so you know, this is a key knife. Another key aspects of it is this is a full tang. This handle part, underneath it is called the tang, where the knife continues on into. You can see it's all the way at the bottom, and there's a cap here too. What this does is not going to break off, and it also gives it a good weight. This knife is fairly heavy. In the hand, it's got a heft to it, and more importantly, as you're using it, it's comfortable in the hand because it's balanced. The balance point is right around here or something. It's kind of the fulcrum of where your hand is. Now, professional chefs, what they tend to do is they tend to hold the knife like this to cut, okay, or like this. That way they can feel it. Inexperienced people use it like this. It's whatever your comfort level is. You know, I'm not a chef, and I'm not expecting anybody watching this to be a chef, but just so you understand the differences. And also, it's got 3 rivets here, and this here is kind of a polymer piece that just protects the handle. So this knife is probably not going to break unless you drop it or something like that. Okay, but never put it in the dishwasher. I wash it off, dry it off, and put it back in the block. Okay, number 1. Number 2, this is a very similar knife. This is called the Santoku. It's a Japanese version of the chef's knife. It has the same function. Okay, you can see the curved blade. Now it is triangular, but more broad in the blade throughout. Okay, one of the reasons is it's wider because Japanese chefs, they scoop up their food with it and then, you know, put it in a container, put it in the wok, whatever. And it also has kind of the hollow grooving here. What that means is it's kind of It's kind of grooved underneath, so it'll let liquids or moisture, as you're cutting any type of meat or vegetable that has a lot of moisture content in it, it lets it out so you have a smoother cut. Sushi knives are hollow ground all the way through. That way you get a nice smooth cut for fish. And I don't have a sushi knife, but just so you know. I never pick up with the knife blade. The reason being is because you can dull the knife blade that way. Some people prefer to do it. I don't because of that. And also, if you do this, you have the chance to cut your hand, which I try very hard not to cut myself, and I've done it way too many times to want to do it. Now, even though my knives are Henkel's knives, this is the knife set I originally bought. It's not the best quality. It probably cost me $120 for the set, Target for 10, 12 piece set, whatever it was. This is a separate knife bought by my wife separately and by one of her friends. This is a Henkel's as well, but it's a better quality. And I'll show you what makes it better quality. Obviously the grooves, but that's just part of the knife as well. Okay, but you see, we talked about the tang. All right, let's take a look at these. You see how much more metal there is in the tang? Okay. This is a heftier knife. This is more balanced. This feels very good in the hand, and it's very good for chopping, cutting. It just feels good. Now, one of the other things about knives too, when it's well balanced like that, your hands and your arms do not get tired by cutting or chopping or slicing. That's key, because when your arms get tired, it becomes a chore. And when it becomes a chore, you don't want to do it. So again, having the right tools makes the job go easier. You're not going to take apart an engine with a hammer and a screwdriver. You're going to have a professional set of tools. That's the same thing in the kitchen. Again, even if you're not a chef, but just for your enjoyment, for yourself, for your family, for your girlfriend, for your boyfriend, whoever it is, you want to be able to enjoy cooking because it is a pleasurable thing. Okay, moving on. Now we have the carving knife. Okay, same as this. Carving knife, you see, is thinner and same size. These are 8-inch blades. Okay, and it's also narrower too. The reason being is, one, you're not going to cut with this. You see, the angle of the blade is not as steep as this, so it's not meant for slicing and dicing and chopping and mincing. Okay, it's meant for easily slicing in. And another reason to use proper quality blades is I have never in my life used an electric knife. My mom has. I've had uncles and aunts have. Okay, but if you have a quality knife with a good edge, or one that you can keep up or put on there, you never have to use an electric knife. Once this is sharpened, it's got pretty good edge. I need to hone it, but this will cut through a turkey or roast beef like it's butter. Next is a bread knife. All right, this is a short bread knife. I think I got kind of ripped off when it came to the bread knife. They decided to be cheap on that. All right, this is a 5-inch bread knife. It should be 8 inches, 8, 10, 12 inches. Okay, but the key thing is, okay, it's the same shape, similar shape as the carving knife, but it's serrated. And you can see these serrations, okay, if you can see, these are wider, spaced apart, and on this other side here, it's not serrated on both sides, just on one side. The reason being is you can sharpen it. If you look real carefully, I'm not sure if you can see it, but if you can see it, you can see kind of the some scrape marks and scratchings, because I sharpen this knife. This knife, because it's so small, is only good for baguettes. But you know, I'll get there someday to buy a regular knife. That just hasn't been my priority. I do have a bread knife. It's a cheapo bread knife, which is good because in comparison, I can show you what the difference is. There's a cheapo bread knife. I can't remember if this was mine or my wife's, but who brought it into our home. But you can see the difference compared to the other knife. Okay, it looks similar with the exception of the wooden handle, but it's not. This blade, it really can't be sharpened. It's a higher stainless steel, which means it has a higher chromium or nickel content to it, so it makes it softer, so it won't hold an edge. And also, remember we were talking about the tangs, okay, how far the handle comes back. This is about 1/4 to 1/2 tang. This is only a small, thin piece of metal, okay, held in by 2 brass rivets. These will eventually start to corrode, and this handle and this wood will start to corrode too over time. This is going to break off, and it's not balanced at all. This is hard. It's actually work. Even with the serrations, it's work to cut bread. But I use it because, again, I just haven't gone out and gotten another knife. Okay, moving on, we have the paring knife. It is what it's explained. I've got more details on the different type of knives and the purposes on the website. I just want to show you the most common ones that we use. Okay, and again, all these knives can be sharpened. So, talking about sharpening, okay, we have this. This is a honing steel. It's not a sharpening steel, it's a honing steel. Okay, and what this is meant to do is to straighten out the blade, because what happens is the blade, it you know, pretend my finger is the sharp edge of the knife. Over time, as you're cutting, it bends over, and the honing steel comes in and straightens it. This is also magnetized too. If I had a screw around here, I'd be able to pick it up with it because it's magnetized, and that helps it keep it the edges straight. So when you're honing your knife, you do it against the blade, like this. Okay, remember, you're straightening the blade. You're not sharpening it. It's a big difference. Okay, what a lot of people confuse a honing steel is with a sharpening steel. This is a sharpening steel. Okay, it looks a little different. I bought this at a specialty store, but these little dots in here, you can see the yellow dots. What they are is they're filled with diamond dust. So they will sharpen the steel. Okay, and I use this. I'll sharpen the knives about once every 3 months, once every 4 months, with a lot of use, and that's really all you need. So now, unlike honing, for sharpening, you go with the blade, because what you're doing is you're taking it off. You don't want a real steep angle. The smaller the angle, the sharper the blade. Generally, you know, anywhere from 12 to 20% is probably ideal. So just like that. Okay. A couple of other things. Steak knives. Okay, the steak knives with this set, kind of got ripped off again, just like the bread knife. Okay, I got these little things. Remember we were talking about the serrations? Remember I said how these are nice wide serrations? You can sharpen them and they have a nice bite to them and a cut. Cheaper knives will have these small serrations here that are, very small spaced apart. You can't sharpen this. If you sharpen it, you're going to dull it. Okay, and you see this is a shiny metal. Now this is a true stainless steel metal. This is a high chromium content, so the blade doesn't rust or it's always shiny and polished. But you can see it's made of a cheap material. These rivets here, they're already starting to corrode, and eventually, these are gonna, just fall apart. Now I got it with the set. I throw it in the drawer, or maybe I didn't, I don't remember, but I throw it in the drawer and just use it when the other knives are dirty or have more guests. Okay, but again, I've got these other nice higher quality steak knives here. These are part of the set that came with this, okay, and you can see it has the same type of construction on it. Almost to the end is shears, kitchen shears, okay. I like these kitchen shears because they don't have a serrated edge, they just have a straight edge. I don't like them because a well-made pair of kitchen shears should come apart. Okay, we're just about at the end. Finally, I'm not going to go into all the kitchen gadgets because there's many, and that's the subject for another discussion. But I talked about the knife picking up. I've got this little doodad right here. Okay, it's stainless steel. I got it at Bed Bath & Beyond, I think. Okay, I just pick it up like this. Okay, parcel it, or even if it's something soft, I'll cut like that. Last but certainly not least is the block, the knife block. Okay. Now, a knife block should have the knives going sideways, okay? Why? Because you have that nice sharp blade. If you put it down like this, you're gonna dull it, all right? So what you should do, it should be sideways. That way you pull it out, it's sharp, it's ready to go. Now, if it is like this, see if you can see it like this, okay? I don't have it here, I know, shame on me, but you should put your knives upside down. And again, because you're not dulling the blade, you're just on the unsharpened side. So, we all do different things, but that's the way you should do it to keep the knives sharp and safe, and the wood also absorbs some of the moisture. So I hope you found this useful, and we'll talk to you again next time.